time to do the great Rostermania. The post-major shake-up is about to happen. Going to be a long one because, as I told you, before I even went to the major, I said, after this, all bets are off because we're at an impasse, not just because we've got a brand new game and some of the people that were good at Go aren't necessarily going to be at the top of their game in CS2. And we got a whole new generation of kids coming through as well, which can all play this wide swing, aim aggressive meta, T-side favored meta, perhaps better than some of the old boys can. Falcons. We're going to start by talking about Falcons. Obviously, they are the big spenders. They are the one org that can sort of frivolously throw millions and millions and millions at a roster. And yet, for what appears to be the second year, we're now starting to see faltering in that plan to assemble this alleged super team. Obviously, they went to the major, didn't they? Well, not the major. They went to the RMR, and they were bad, very bad. Didn't get to the major for real, for proper. They had Simple there. Now, you'll remember, I was the guy that said on a stream many, many months ago, like about 6 months before Simple went to Falcons, you know, how Falcons wanted Simple to be there when Nico came to join, because as far as some executive was concerned, that was like having, quote, Messi and Ronaldo on the same team, except obviously you're not really getting prime Messi or prime Ronaldo in that analogy. That was the quote that was given to me, and I just put that out there, and then lo and behold, it happened to be true again, almost as if I'm like well connected and know a thing or two about what's going on behind the scenes, despite people publicly saying I knew nothing about what was going on at Falcons. Now, my understanding was the agreement when Simple went there was if Simple wanted to stay, Falcons would pay a reduced buyout to get him out from Na'Vi. And Na'Vi had agreed a price that was below the nominal buyout for Simple's contract. And they said, if you want to keep him permanently and he wants to go, we'll do a fucking deal. And of course, that's all contingent on one very important thing. And that is Simple wanting to go. Well, he saw enough. And I've got some thoughts about this, but let's just start with what happened. Falcons, they went out in the RMR. Here it is. His stint on the team was cut short by their European RMR failure. Simple took to Telegram to announce he will not be continuing his stint with Falcons. I'm not moving to Falcons, he simply said. Upon being contacted by HLTV, the Ukrainian confirmed there is no chance for him to stay beyond his loan period with the Saudi Arabian organization. That was due to last until the end of the year, but his return has been cut short after Falcons failed to qualify for the Shanghai Major. They were eliminated from the European RMR A with a 1-3 record on Tuesday after suffering losses to FaZe, Soar, and Gamer Legion. Now, let's just talk about how catastrophically bad Falcons actually were. I mean, look, FaZe made it all the way to the final, but I would argue they were certainly vulnerable in the RMR. A lot of experts were saying maybe FaZe don't even get to the last 16 and make it to the major. You know, who knows? But anyway, losing to Soar and Gamer Legion, even with the roster that they had, is pretty fucking embarrassing. And Simple was decent. Simple played reasonably well. If you want to actually have a look at the numbers, we can do that. You can see that he has moved into rifling and wasn't always great, but in the time in Falcons, he certainly had more better maps than weaker maps, and, you know, definitely wasn't the reason they lost the Gamer Legion. Did put in a pretty powerhouse performance on Mirage. Wasn't able to get them over the line. Just one of those things. But it's going to take time. And look, let's also be real. Simple is a diminished version of himself right now. He hasn't played a lot of competitive games. He hasn't played a lot of competitive reps. I do not share certain experts' optimism that Simple's going to come back. Indeed, I had to kind of roll my eyes a little bit. I'll have to go on Hot Take Point Made at some point and have this out with Duncan. But I did roll my eyes a little bit while I was working the major. And Duncan was like saying, oh, whoever wins this major, it's really important because it's one of the ones where Simple isn't there, and this could be a defining moment in whether or not you can overtake him. I don't think I think it's conceivable Simple might never win another major where he is in terms of his career right now. He's 27 years old, guys. He's not 24. He's learning a new skill set in a new game, and currently doesn't have a team and isn't getting reps. So no, I don't share this idea that Simple is going to just walk back into a top team and win everything. And Falcons realistically represented one of the few teams that I think would risk paying money for this player right now for a variety of reasons. Because with Simple, you get the good, obviously, because you get Simple, right? And the good is you get him, and when he's on his game, he's still one of the best players in the world, and he will always be the best player to touch the game until maybe Donk gets another few years under his belt, and we'll see what happens there. Anything's possible. Don't take anything for granted. You get all of the brand recognition that comes with it. You get all of Simple's fan base, but ultimately as well, you get a player who is very easily frustrated with his teammates, very easily frustrated with himself, and very difficult to manage. Remember, this is a player that not even who we can now all agree is the greatest coach of all time, Blade, not even Blade could really put a lid on Simple, which is one of the reasons why he ended up out of the team in the first place and wasn't brought back into the Na'Vi that was the #1 team of 2024. So there's a lot there. I will say this though, real do recognize real, and goats get to talk about goats. That's how that works. And as a goat in my field, it was nice to get a compliment from a goat in his field. So goat on goat action, goat on goat appreciation. And to make it absolutely clear, do I want Simple to get back to where he is? Yes, because the game would be fantastic right now if we had the likes of a Ziwu and a Donk and a Munisi and a Simple, and they're all popping off. We've had Simple and Ziwu, for like all that time. Now imagine a world where we have 4 potential #1 contenders every year in Counter-Strike. Then obviously throw Nico into that mix. Who knows what version of him is going to be unleashed at Falcons. So we shall wait and see. But I do want to say that walking away from Falcons, I don't know how I feel about it, because Falcons is obviously a mess. Otherwise he wouldn't be choosing to do that. But he knows they're bringing Nico in. He knows they're going to try and create a super team. And what this says to me is either there's one player not coming he really wanted to play with, maybe Munisi, who knows, or he doesn't vibe with the coaching or the support staff over there. More on that in a moment. Anyway, unsurprisingly, it was also compounded that, yes, they were dropping their entire roster, essentially, the only person remaining being Magisk because he's got Danish privilege. And you can see Sun Pius, who was already benched for Simple despite being the highest rated player, now finds himself alongside Snappy, Dupree and Madden, which still should be pronounced Maiden, but he insists it's Madden. Just add an extra D, it's never too late. That sounds dodgy, don't clip that. Right, anyway, so Falcons bench their trio after the failure, and look, I'm just going to say this. I think the core of Falcons' problems, it goes a bit beyond just having the roster. Hello, everyone. I'm just interrupting today's video to tell you about our sponsor, which is Incogni. Now, I'm sure many of you who are regular viewers will know that we've worked with Incogni before and they've sponsored content. But if you're new, I'm just here to tell you about what Incogni is, which is a personal data removal service. Now, I'm sure some of you will have noticed you get lots of spam emails offering you things, and you're like, why is this happening? I haven't signed up to any of this. Well, that's because there are entities called data brokers on the internet, and data brokers are companies that scrape the internet to find out any personal information they can about you. They then analyze this information and sometimes sell this data to third parties such as private businesses, insurance companies, financial institutions, even sometimes the government, and then you find yourself inundated with these offers, these emails, unavoidable spam. For people in the US, this can also include what they call people search sites, which is where personal information is available on the internet for those who pay a fee, often used by landlords or sometimes people for nefarious purposes. It can just be utilized by anyone. What Incogni does for you is it goes out and it finds where your personal data is stored, and then it asks them legally to remove them for you. This is a process which, if you were to do it as an individual, it would take up lots of your time, lots of individual emails. Incogni does it for you with a form and a click of a button. To give you an example, I remarked that I was getting lots of spam email, and I was wondering how it was happening, a little bit oblivious to the mechanics of that. I signed up to Incogni, and this will happen to you if you do the same. They sent me a report and showed me a list of every data broker that had my information, and it was over 70. And then, by filling in the form and clicking a button, they went and had all of that information removed on my behalf. What you'll get once you do that is regular updates, which will look something like this, and they will continue to do it on your behalf and continue to prevent it to happen as long as you're using the service. So if you find yourself having a cluttered email, or you're worried about your information being publicly available if you live in the US, you should sign up to Incogni. And if you do, please use my referral code, which is incogni.com/Richard. If you do that, you will get a 60% discount on Incogni, which will make it just $5.99 for the annual plan. Anyway, thanks very much for supporting the channel by doing that, and let's get back to the video. Let's start with what I heard. Let's start with Richard whispering rumors, Varys, fat, bald eunuch, journalist of esports. Let's do it, right? So, obviously, as I've said many, many times down the years, you can find me saying this probably about 1,000 times, because, you have to repeat your greatest hits, always trumpet your W's, and don't talk about your L's. Let's start with what I heard in the Danish rumor mill, right? I heard that Snappy was being undermined as an IGL. I heard that there was a lot of he was frustrated because his vision for the game, Zonic's vision for the game, and bizarrely Magisk's vision for the game, none of these things aligned. And because of the simpatico between Zonic and Magisk, Snappy was basically, he felt adrift. He didn't feel like he was actually the leader of this team, the captain of this ship. That's what people were saying behind the scenes. Now, obviously, you throw Dupree into the mix as well, who was always meant to be a stopgap, but he's part of that Astralis contingent. No doubt where his loyalties would lie if it was pressed upon the group. And you have to just understand how terrible Falcons have been at managing personalities and people. Because while they were right, no matter what the community wants to believe, to cut Boros, by the way, people only know the tip of the iceberg with that player, right? I'm going to just say this. I've said it before. It's the nicest way I can say it. He isn't intellectually cut out to be a professional player. He's fantastically talented, but it's a raw type of talent that you cannot hone because he lacks the fucking fundamentals to actually be disciplined. And, when you're sleeping through practices, for instance, right? And it's not like a one-off occurrence. Yes, you're on the chopping block because this is a fucking professional sport. So anyway, yeah, it was really dumb to change his mouse, and it was also really bad of Zonic to behave like a petulant child, shouting at him, and Magisk to shout at him, and then video that and then upload it to the internet. But the full story about Boros on Falcons is not known to the wider community. And I'll just say this. If you then go to Into the Breach, which is a team being assembled by Smooya, CSGO's problem child, and he turns around and goes, yeah, Boros isn't professional enough, the community really need to revise their opinion. You've really got to... You're on the wrong side of history on this one, guys. That's all I'm going to say there, right? So, anyway... I don't think the roster was ever meant to work. The roster was assembled quite hastily, wasn't it? The roster was put together at the last minute after their original plans for a super team fell through. They went out, got the Ents core, and then the Ents core wasn't really what anybody wanted, and they basically they basically just turned up to events and did terribly. But here's the next part I'm going to say. Can we actually put Zonic on Fraud Watch? Fraud Watch. It is absolutely time Zonic is on Fraud Watch, and I'm going to elaborate on my many, many reasons. First of all, Zonic is an older guy. You know, he's not like my age old, but he's like the next one down, generationally speaking. And he's meant to be an adult in the room. And so I thought it was pretty fucking sus, honestly, that Zonic, the coach, was one of the people having a tantrum against a player on a video. Not a great sign. Right? Obviously, he was pretty checked out, never wanted to give Boros a chance. Let's also just talk about how he's consistently lied while he's been in charge of Falcons. You remember when he first went there, he said he'd give everyone who was on the roster a chance, benched them immediately, then humiliatingly had to bring some of the players back just to meet it. Then he said, oh, you know, we don't want players to come here because, you know, that it's a retirement home or they want to get the bag. Working with me and my fucking performance coach, dude, that's the bag. We're the bag. That's what you should want. And then immediately, as we'll get to in a second in an interview, said, no, actually, we do want to build a super team. And I never wanted these players. Now, I'm going to just say this. If you're getting paid a big fat fuck off 6-figure salary with performance bonuses by an organization with money to burn, you don't get to have this level of failure. In fact, I have seen Taz get chewed up for, you know, oh, fire Taz, barely been in the job. Barely been in the job. Taz has got to go. Question marks about Neo. He's got to go again. New to the job. X-Taz, perennial underachiever. He gets questioned. No one's questioned Zonic. You can't keep dining out on Prime Astralis, guys. It's been 4 years. You can't keep dining out on that. Like, what have you done today, dickhead? What have you done today? And unfortunately, what he's done is he's took an Ents core that was getting top 8 placements at events and made them appreciably worse. That's what he's done. As a coach, you have to take responsibility, you know, and like, just stop letting him do interviews, right? That's another thing that we're going to get into. I'm just going to show you the HLTV report about the interview. The interview was done on play.gg. It's just their website is a little bit more cluttered. So apologies, Play, but full credit for doing the interview. And this was the quote. Danny Zonic Sorensen has given a damning interview at play.gg around Falcons' disastrous 2024, admitting that from day one of signing this team, we knew this roster was only temporary. All right, well, it was nice of you to say the exact opposite. I think throughout the entire year, we have tried upgrading and changing the roster. That decision was already made in the spring. I'm not saying we were wasting time, but I'm not willing to meet and not be satisfied with the roster that I have. I wish it would have happened earlier, but it was simply not possible to get the players that I wanted. Well, I hate to break it to you, Danny, right? But listen, you know, we all don't get things we want from time to time, but you still got to make it work. You still got to do a job. You still have to do your job, and your job isn't to fucking phone it in for a year on a massive salary and just watch failure after failure after failure. Watch your IGL and all your players. The communication must have been a shit show over at Falcons. They make so many elementary mistakes, which, again, you're meant to be the greatest coach of all time. You can't take the Ents core and Magisk and Dupree and somehow make that work. You can't do that as the greatest coach of all time. No, fraud, absolute fraud. Like, what we're going to find out probably by, you know, a few years into CS2 is actually the Astralis era, that prime Astralis, that unbelievable run of success, what we're all going to realize is that was just one of those insane cosmic Voltrons that just come together in sport sometimes. Like, you know, the Chicago Bulls team in the 90s or the fucking Man United Youth Academy. You know, it's just one of those, like, insane moments where just everything aligns and everyone's good and they all come together at the right time to win multiple championships, and then they can never replicate that success on an individual basis. That's what we've got, essentially. Unfortunately, we're going to get to the only way that Falcons, the only way Zonic's going to like get his reputation back up is when they build this super team, aka the team he wants. And if they do win everything with a super team, which, by the way, Not a given. We remember the FaZe super team actually underachieved, didn't it? And we'd never seen a team like that before. You know, Guardian and Olaf Meister and Carrigan and Nico, all this shit. You know, but they underachieved. So it's not a given. But it will be an interesting thought experiment that when Falcons, if they do start winning, and I think they will start winning when they get their super team, how much are we going to attribute it to Zonic, having watched him absolutely fail for a year? To an inexcusable degree, that basically, if he was any other coach at any other org, he would have been fired. That is undeniable, by the way. Now, just to further elaborate, how is the super team going? Because this is indeed Rostermania. This is when we are meant to see Falcons build their team. Well, here's what we know so far. The biggest knockback has potentially already occurred, because when we were at the major, the rumor was it wasn't just Nico leaving G2. He was going to take manacy out with him. But then that became highly unlikely based on their reactions and body language when they lost and went out of the tournament, based on the fact manacy had said, I cried when I said goodbye to Nico. They're very, very close. manacy wants to play with Nico. Let's put all the cards on the table. manacy doesn't care where it is. Nico's going. manacy will follow him to Falcons if he was allowed to. But anyway, we've had this report coming in saying that no, he's not going to go. And we know from previous reporting that, yeah, that he doesn't look like he's going to go. Now, there was rumors of like maybe 3 million been turned down. And so it definitely looks like he's not going to go. Now, I think in this economy, it would be crazy to turn down 3 million for any player under any circumstances, particularly as we know, Munacy's contract ends next year. So there is a chance we could get like a ropz type situation where Munacy's out the door on a free transfer and maybe he ends up at Falcons for the 26th season. You know, who knows? But the bottom line is G2 seem absolutely adamant they want to keep him. And look, I think if you were to lose Nico and manacy, that is the end of your team as a competitive force. You're going from being a team that realistically can challenge for trophies to being a team that realistically will be qualifying for majors and not doing a whole lot of much else. So yeah, it's kind of crazy to me to think that they would let him go. But equally, 3 million for a player in this esports market with a 1 year time span left on his contract, I could be tempted to take that even if the talent is irreplaceable. So, you know, it's a tough one. But anyway, so we had that. We also had Striker say that they're not getting gym fat now from MOUZ. They said this on the HLTV confirmed.
Picked apart, you know. So
Jimmy to Falcons isn't likely, huh?
It seems as if that was like tied directly to manacy, you know. And if manacy was going, Jimmy would have gone as well. And that seems like that's backtracked now. So it really looks like kind of manacy staying or having his organization say he's still not for sale, or they're still not going to let him go until his contract's out. Whatever the situation exactly is, like whether.
So Jimmy was meant to be a shoo-in for Falcons, the team that everyone was talking about. Literally at the start of the major, Falcons was going to be Nico, Magisk, manacy, Jimmy +1. That was going to be the plan. But once again, like it was last year, where it was like, we're only joining if Nico joins, then Nico doesn't join. We've now got players saying, I'm only joining if manacy's joining. Then I know you're serious, and now manacy isn't joining, and now Jimmy isn't joining. And so all of a sudden, we have to wonder where Jimmy's going to end up, because he's definitely leaving MOUZ. And if it isn't going to be Falcons, where realistically could it be? Could it be FaZe now? Could it be G2? MOUZ is moving to fill in Nico spots. You know, they're the two most likely. So, crazy stuff. And all the while, Falcons, we know they won't pick up Spinks. We know that's not happening. So we're just kind of sat watching them desperately try and assemble this team, which is interesting. Because if you go to their Twitter, I think they're trying to imply that the Rostermania is going in such a way that they'd predicted. They posted this gif of like dominoes falling, which I don't know if this is like me, but like, is that what you say when everything's falling in place? It's not really. It's a chain reaction, but it's not like if I wanted to say I was executing a master plan, I wouldn't say all the dominoes are falling down. I wouldn't use that as like an analogy or a metaphor. So I don't know. Kind of seems weird, but anyway, that's what they're doing. Probably copium, honestly, but whatever. So all in all, I mean, we don't even have any roster moves per se to rate for Falcons, except look, Nico joining, 2 thumbs up, obviously. The general management of the team is 2 thumbs down, and Zonic, Overwatch fart noise. Cheeks. The whole thing's a fucking mess. Honestly, couldn't really be happy about that, so fine. A small one, Automatic is benched on his run with NRG. I don't know what that means for him as a player, whether Valorant is beckoning again. The key problem all the Valoranters have got now is there's no CS in NA, but if you went to Valorant, there's just nothing to do. There's barely any seasons to play, and or just cruising by on CS ability and raw aim. You can't really do that anymore now. You've got all these kids that have specialized in that game. So it's kind of tough. It's a tough spot. If you're not good enough to be on one of the 2 big NA rosters right now, and you can't hold it down on the likes of an NRG or an M80, you're kind of out of luck. And I don't know if it's like the end of the road per se, but I don't really know where he's going to end up. I'll also add bringing in George. George is, 21, obviously got a lot of years left. We've seen him play on multiple lineups before, and this NRG team did win Philadelphia recently. So, look, that's the type of thing that they're just going to have to do. They're just going to have to be plugging away in that tier 2 of NA, and we'll see what happens. But, I mean, overall, unfortunately, the likes of, like, Automatic and Breezy as well, probably to an extent, those guys that were part of that new wave of NA talent, they're kind of spent now, and I don't really know where they're going to end up and what they're going to do with their careers, but they've been great servants to the game. But ultimately, this is a 1 thumbs up move for NRG. This is a step in the right direction, as proven by the victory at Philadelphia. While we're doing NA, was happy to see this one for reasons I'm sure we can all deduce. Nouns are having a rebuild at the moment, and Carson, who plays under the name Nosrak because he does that hilarious thing of, the name is backwards, he's no longer in the team. He was the one I always had the issue with because he was the guy who got the ban. He was in that famous recording that came out with the ESIC investigation into NA match fixing, and he was there listening to people, and he's like, oh, but I never fixed a game. And it's like, yeah, okay, mate, whatever. Guess we'll believe you then. The whole thing was just ridiculous. He served his time, fair enough, but it never sat easy with me that he went back into a team that I have a lot of respect for, like Nouns. So I'm not going to be sad that he's not got a team at the moment. And that's that, really. Enjoyed this. Remember Nivera? Well, he's back and open to offers. Kind of a fun one. Former Vitality player joined Revenant in June, you can see there, just 3 months after announcing his return to Counter-Strike following a Valorant stint. Captained by 2-time major winner NBK, the team failed to make any international impact and attended just one LAN event, which was the Indian Sky Esports Championship of 2024, where it finished bottom of its group with head coach Jeebs having to fill in for Lonks. Revenant haven't played a match since the CCT Season 2, blah, blah, blah. We worked hard as a team. I'm incredibly grateful to play with some amazing people, but it's time to move on to the next chapter. Transitioning to CS has been an exciting challenge for me, and I'm very glad that it went very smoothly on a personal level, and confidently say that I feel very comfortable with the game now, and I look forward to growing and evolving more. So he's out there. Sure, everyone will be beating down the door for him. Surprised at this one. Obviously, Aurora did pretty poorly at the RMR. Their AWPer, Deko, has been moved to inactive. Apparently, he wants to take a break. You can see here, Dennis will live on as a legend of Aurora. We incredibly appreciate the year he has spent with us. You don't get legend status after a year, but fair enough. Despite all the challenges we had to face, we've been discussing on how to come to the common denominator, taking into account Dennis's wishes and how he sees his future. We mutually decided to freeze the contract. Dennis will be able to return to the professional stage at any time, and we will be happy to facilitate this. What's now? Dennis remains as a representative of our organisation. It is important to note we do not prevent Deko from playing in any media tournaments. We will follow him and celebrate his successes as our own. Very surprised at this because Deko's one of those players where, for me, we're kind of at the stage now as he's 23. He's kind of hit wasted talent for me. There was a period of time before he joined Aurora where I honestly thought he would be like the next big, breakout AWPer. He seemed to be really on course for that, and it just never materialized. It would happen in fits and starts. It was just like, he never scaled the heights. He had some great games, some great series, some great runs, but ultimately it never turned into any sustained success or sustained level of performance. And obviously, at 23, you should kind of have something to show for your professional career, and it just hasn't kind of worked out. I've heard people say behind the scenes he's difficult to play with. It seems the org have been very kind and decent here, essentially saying if he wants to come back and play for someone else, we're not going to stand in his way, and we're very happy with his contribution to our team, so fair enough. But kind of a sad one. I get it, Aurora did very poorly here, but I look at that team and it's like they should have had that upset potential that just didn't materialize. And I don't think they look good without Deko as a roster. So I don't know on this one. It kind of feels like a weird one. I guess thumbs down for Deko's career. Thumbs down for the roster move. Yeah, kind of sucks. Now, I will be dunking on Astralis in a more sustained manner in just a moment. We will regurgitate some of this here, but it's now official that they parted ways with Bro. Let's just remind everyone what happened here. So basically, Astralis, when they were going to Blast, they brought in a new IGL, which happened to be Cadian. Device was no longer the IGL. They wanted to use Cadian at that event. He wasn't a registered substitute, so they applied for an emergency exemption by lying about Bro being ill. Meanwhile, Bro's agent publicly said, no, he's fine and available for duty. Then there was an ESIC investigation. ESIC found Astralis guilty, despite Blast having said, we've done our own investigation and we've got no reason to think Astralis would lie, despite them being one of the biggest lying orgs in esports history. They've lied about everything consistently for 5 fucking years, but we've got no reason to doubt them on this. Then ahead of the major, Device suddenly was ill again and stressed and needed time off and couldn't compete, so they had to bring Bro back. Bro, who was now fit to compete, unlike Device, who suddenly, when faced with a long flight to the Far East, was ill again, which, look, I do take health seriously. I take mental health seriously and physical health seriously. But when people say, oh, you can't ask questions about that stuff, I'm a fucking journalist. Like, I'm sorry, I have an inquisitive mind. So I never take things at face value. Whatever. Anyway, so Device wasn't fit, but Bro was fit now. Brovid-19 was over. So Brovid had to play the major, the RMR. They didn't get to the major again. It's like 4 majors in a row that they haven't got to now. They're just an embarrassment of an organization. Immediately, Device is fit again to play and will be playing at the start of 2025 after he's had a Christmas break, and Bro is out again. So if anyone is in any doubt about how shitly run Astralis is, that one saga would be enough. Like, imagine sports. If a sports org was doing this. And some sports orgs have. I'm familiar with poorly run sports franchises as a Newcastle fan and a Raiders fan. My life is hell. I was also a Seattle Supersonics fan in basketball before they got Thanos out of existence. So I've seen some shit, but this is a level of incompetence that would be staggering in any sport, and it comes from the same fucking org over and over and over and over again. It's like I say, it's hard. I mean, in NA, EG wins hands down worst run organization. What they did since Peak 6 took over to where they're at now, with all of the Peak 6s gone, that was the worst org in NA, period. In Europe, there's NIP, there's Astralis, but just actually, it's insane how it always happens. Anyway, let's just be clear. Bro obviously never had a future with this team. I mean, that was true from the moment he was picked up. The young players, the inexperienced players, must all be sacrificed on the altar of incompetence at Astralis. They don't develop talent. They burn it. They sacrifice it. It's actually crazy. And so we're back to this lineup here. How do I feel about it? I mean, look, yeah, obviously Device needs to be on this fucking roster. But let's do the thought experiment here about whether or not Device could be a problem moving forward. I mean, look, maybe Astralis are playing 5-dimensional chess, and the reason they brought Cadian in is because Cadian's an AWPer, and they do want to push Device out because they're sick of him having these, bouts of stress and sickness. And because look, we can all be sympathetic. We can all be sympathetic. It's terrible. A debilitating illness that's exacerbated by stress. As someone that has like a peptic ulcer, right? I've had ulcer treatment for most of my adult life. Now, to be fair, I'll also add, the doctor always says the same thing. No spicy food, no alcohol, your ulcer will heal right up, if you take this medicine. But then I put it to the doctor, well, listen, if I can't have spicy food or alcohol, you may as well just put a bullet in my head, because what do you have left at my age, right? You know what I mean? So, obviously, you could, I could do a better job. I could do a better job of managing it. But, I'll just take the medicine and hope that it doesn't burn through my fucking beer gut like a fucking scene from Alien Romulus or whatever. But anyway, here's something to consider. If I'm a teammate of Device, and I have had to deal with configs bullshit and Lord knows what else. And here we are, finally, about to go to a major, and Device says, sorry, lads, I need some time off. I'm stressed. This is a thing. And I'm going, oh, yeah, big homie. Sorry, you're ill. We'll try and win that major for you, yeah? I'm going to say that. And then as soon as Device goes out the room, my inner voices are going to be just all the resentment goblins are all going to be coming out going, yeah, once again, he's fucking let you down. You could have been in that fucking major. You could have won that major. You could have had that sticker money. He just gets to take time off, does he? He just gets an extended fucking Christmas, does he? And it's like, you don't want that to be in there. Because you're like, yeah, you're my bro. Oh, sorry, you're ill, man. Look, life comes first, yeah, not competition. Fuck that, competition is everything because I'm a professional fucking athlete. And it's like, it's just in there. It's just in there, whether you want it to be in there or not, right? So it's kind of like the issue. Like, Nip took a lot of heat for how they handled Device, but remember, they didn't want to bring him back. Like, Device was getting called out for taking a year off. That was a different situation. This one is just crazy out of left field, because I would also add, he had things going on in his life at that time, breakup, moving country. By the way, they say, like, the big three for stress, bereavements, breakups, and moving house. And Device was doing 2 of them when he went to Nip. So I'ma fucking have some sympathy there. This, not so much. I mean, Astralis probably is a stressful environment to be in, but you're out of tournaments early all of the time because you're shit. You're working with new teammates all the time, You were the IGL. You were calling all of the shots, calling the roster. This one feels different. And look, he should have left it. He shouldn't have announced, hey, I'm back, y'all. I'm better now that the second Astralis are out of the fucking major. Announce it in February when you start playing games again. Optically, again, it's been handled like a complete fucking shit show because it's Astralis. They wouldn't know how to handle it any other fucking way. But just also that, think of the criticism that little baby Stown has got. right? That fucking Yabby's got. And now they were $2 million and they've done nothing. More on that in the Astralis dunking section. They've took all of that shit publicly and they're getting blame for the systemic problems that existed in Astralis before they got there. And then the guy who was the leader, who failed as an IGL, as I called he would, you just have to be built different to be an IGL. Simple as that. You either have it or you don't. And he don't. And he never had. And there's never been any indications he would. So he failed as an IGL. We have to bring in a replacement for his failure. You do that. We try and shoehorn him in at Blast to get him in sooner. We get fined 10 grand for doing that, by the way. All of which is exacerbated from Device's failure. Like, if Device could have done the job as an IGL, which he insisted he could, you don't have to bring in Cadian, you don't have the drama, you don't get fined. You know, it's like causality, right? And then, guys, we've done it. We've got our lineup. We've took all of that heat. Let's get to the major. Let's get in the major again. Let's break the duck, and let's get our stickers back in the game. Let's show our fans that have stuck with us all this time we're back. Device is like, this fucking health problems, lads. I'm out. There's no way people on the team aren't looking at him differently. There's no way. There's no way. There's just no way. Best will in the world. There's no way. You know, just thinking like, right, okay, starting now. We've just missed out on millions of sticker money. Starting now. We're all friends now. We're starting now. And I'm just going to say this. This has now happened 3 times in his career. And again, I am sympathetic. But let's look at it this way. If a 29-year-old footballer was carrying an injury, that would mean I couldn't rely on him for large parts of the season. Say he had knee problems, or back problems, or hip problems, right? And he's 29. I'm probably thinking about replacing him. I think in any other sport, you would think about replacing that player. You would just be like, look, you can't be the star and be injury prone. Those two things can't go together. You need your star every day, every game. So I'm just putting that all out there. I'm sure Reddit will fucking hate it. How can Richard Lewis be so mean to Dever? I'm not being mean to Dever. I'm strip the name from the conversation and just look at it as an abstract. You know, all of which is to say, Astralis have to succeed in 2025. And while success is relative, I mean succeed. I mean it's shit or get off the pot time, guys. Because you've missed 4 majors now. I said it was 5 on the broadcast in the major. That's just predictive. I'm just ahead. I'm already at the next one. But they just have to. It's like, at this point, there's just no more runway for the excuses. Anyway, I will be dunking on them in a more sustained fashion. But just to treat this roster move on its face, it's a thumbs up, obviously, because it's Device for bro. But as always with Astralis, 2 thumbs down, big Overwatch fart noise. In fact, fart noise in triplicate. Ridiculous. Always a fucking travesty with Astralis. Right, next. Another big one. Thank God as well. This has been long overdue. Virtus.pro have finally benched Jame. Forgive them, Father, he said in his statement, for they know not what they do. Bible reference there. And anyway, I was calling this version of Virtus.pro the Jame Vanity Project. Because you must remember, all your favourite analysts and your favourite pundits and talking heads and experts and CS Twitter, by the way, me and Maui, we've been in discussions to start a podcast where what we do is we just take 10 tweets from CS Twitter every week or every fortnight or whatever it would be, and we just rate them on how good or bad they are, but we do it seriously, like that meme where everyone sat around in a circle looking really serious about it. So that content will absolutely bang, by the way, if we ever get round to doing it, but whatever. He announced it to his community. He didn't put it broadly out there on Twitter. But anyway, so Virtus.pro bench Jame. And I was calling this version of Virtus.pro, which let's have a look at the roster, right? I was calling this the Jame Vanity Project. I have just never seen a more embarrassing kind of Like, you get hyped as being like, oh my god, with Electronic, the firepower, all the pundits are going nuts. Like, Virtus.pro are serious now, especially in this meta. Oh, yes, absolutely, yes. It's Jame. It was always Jame. It's the way he thinks about the game. It's the way he calls the game. It's the way he sets up the team. Like, look, back when they won in Rio, right? Unfortunately, it made sense for him to play the way he played. There was always a bitch in the team, some little fucking hobgoblin. Does Master want up? Okay, we'll use an SMG this round again. Love you, Master. We do it all for the Master. Right? There was always a player who just had to live like that, right? Which is ridiculous. But the entire construction of the team was basically designed for Jame to be alive as often as possible, and he would bitch out of, like, clutches, which, I got no truck with that whatsoever. But any team that's, like, saving like that, even if it's the right thing to do, that's anti-Counter-Strike. Get it out of my game. Anyway, right? You'd bitch out all the time, because you would just want to be alive the most. And he would want to have an AWP as often as possible. And I guess at the end of CSGO, which was fucking trash, people forget how bad that MR15 was, right? Rio was the worst thing. It was just an assault on my brain. It was like someone with herpes pissing into my eyes. It's the most horrific version of Counter-Strike ever played, and only in that version could Virtus.pro be successful. Now, the signing of Electronic was meant to be a signifier that we were moving away from that. Electronic, the firepower, mid-round caller, backup wingman. But it also turns out that apparently, behind the scenes, Electronic is a bit of a grumpy arsehole. Let's not forget, there was just a report, which nobody cares about it when it's not me, evidently. But there was, like, meant to be some report. He got into a fight with, like, World Edit at LAN or something. It was just on, like, eScore or one of these fucking Russian sites. By the way, I will add, given how things work in, like, CIS and Russia for the news, right, it's like, it could just be totally fabricated, because they fabricated stories about me, so whatever. But anyway, so it could just be he's difficult, right? But anyway, it was meant to be a good team. All the experts agreed, and it just wasn't. And it wasn't because in this aggressive, get up in your face, Ferrari peaking fucking meta, all on the T side, Jame couldn't evolve. It was all him. The fish rots from the head down, ladies and gentlemen. That was what was happening on Virtus.pro. And Jame was just deemed for all of this time too big to fail. You may say a Christ-like figure. Just given that deference from everyone around him, no matter what he said, no matter what he did, no matter how they played. It just doesn't work like that in CS2. It just doesn't work like that in CS2. And so he had to get his shit together, and he didn't get his shit together. And so anyway, he's out. I mean, look at this lineup. Like, Fame's had a bit of a drop-off of late, and Flitz had a bit of a drop-off of late, but you put Jame on that lineup, they should have been doing more. They should have been a dangerous team. But they were still boring to watch. They still made outrageous percentage calls, like just crunching the numbers instead of playing CS with balls and aggression and heart. And by the way, if you want an example of how antithetical to James' thinking CS2 is, do you know what the team that is most unlike Virtus.pro is? It's Spirit. And what did they do? They just won a major. That's all you need to know about how fucking washed and behind the times Jame has got in the last 2 years. It's just as simple as that. And so, anyway, I was like, James got to go after this, after they got knocked out by fucking wild card, guys. He's got to go. Hilariously, like that fucking guy who's got his finger on the pulse, right? I was talking about this on yesterday's stream. The guy that gets everything right. The man with unprecedented contacts and leaks. Ooh, we must put it in. Right, you had a 50-50 chance of this one, dickhead. A 50-50 chance. Because obviously, if things are bad in VP, and Electronic's a star player and a big personality who fancies himself as an IGL, and James is Jesus Christ incarnate and fancies himself as the IGL and is the caller, it's got to be one of them. It's got to be one of them, and he knew that. This is what he does all the time. This is why I got no truck with what he does for fucking journalism. Just stop doing this shit. Stop this clout farming, and just stick to what you're doing with Spirit. You're just part of an organisation that won a major, and you're still thinking to yourself, I have all the leaks. I have all the leaks. Look at me leaking. Come to my Telegram. Like, what's wrong with your brain? So he took a guess and said, VP are looking for options to sell electronic. By the way, this is how I know he just pulled this one out of his arse. Right? It's got all the hallmarks of just, it's totally safe. VP are looking for options. What does that even mean? I'm looking for options. That's like the biggest, like, pseudonym for might. You know what I mean? I'm looking for, hey, Rich, do you want to come out to the pub tonight? Well, I'm looking for options to come to the pub. Oh, what does it even mean? And then, to sell electronic, we're not cutting him, we're not benching him, we're just looking maybe possibly at options to sell him, and if nobody wants to buy him, he gets to stay on the team, and you've just got plausible deniability like those sheep esports motherfuckers. This is just fucking fake news. And then, this was a totally safe guess. I have always wanted to run an experiment, by the way, where I just create a clout-seeking Harumi or Halloumi or whatever cheese he's fucking named after style account, right? And I just fucking make up roster moves based on my intuition, and I want to see how many I could guess correctly. And establish myself as, like, you know, I'll probably have sheep esports in my DMs. Hey, wanna come and drop those straight fire leaks over at us? We've got like an 82% accuracy record. Like, fucking hell. But anyway, so Overdrive couldn't even get the 50-50 right on this one. I never want to hear again, guys, anyone who's saying, no, but he was right about this one. It's easy to be right if you're just taking a guess, an informed guess every single time. It's like cold reading, for fuck's sake. That's what he does. It's the journalistic equivalent of cold reading, and you all fall for it. Stop. Anyway, this is a good move. This is a good move. This is a good move for Jame. This is a good move for Virtus.pro. I don't know where Jame's going to go next. Maybe in some bizarro land he ends up on Falcons. I can't see it. I don't know what org would pick him up. He's an AWPer. That's got some value. He's a decent AWPer. He's a statistically decent AWPer. But then again, actually is he? Actually is he? Let's not forget as well that HLTV essentially changed their entire rating because of him. That's how fucking toxic his playstyle was to CS. Because he was just alive all the time. He was just at the fucking top of the player lists all of the time, and they went, yeah, actually, we better just take that out. And Jame stats down, and then all of a sudden, 2.1. Where is he? Nowhere. Wicked, right? So, listen, all of that said, I like the move. I hope he gets another chance. I hope he goes somewhere else. But he's got to fucking update his way of thinking. He's got to update his way of thinking about the game. Because Virtus.pro have been... They used to be boring, but they won. Now they're boring, and the only thing you can guarantee is they will lose a game in a game that's lost from the start, right? It's lost. It's clearly lost. You are going to lose. Everyone knows you're going to lose. Could you lose quickly? Nah. We're going to grind out a hard-fought loss every single fucking time. Like, that's gross. Also, think about legacy, my dude. It's Virtus.pro, the home of the plow, the fucking team that never knew when they were fucking down. Ballsy plays, aggressive style. But this is who Virtus.pro were. They were even like that pre-Polish plow. Back when they used to have Russians on the 1.16. They had some fucking mega players back in the day. This version of Virtus.pro is an embarrassment to the legacy. Just not cool. So yeah, a good move. I'm giving this 1 thumbs up. Step in the right direction. I hope they can get another IGL. Let's talk complexity. Obviously, Jason, my dear friend, my brother in Christ, just if you are listening to this, just turn it off now. Fast forward for 10 minutes. Gonna say some things, but it's never personal. You know I love you. And I think, actually, this is a move that had to happen. Complexity, for me, have been a very frustrating team to watch. And I'm going to explain why. First of all, they have been blessed and cursed, it must be said. They've got Elige. That's great news, because Elige is one of the best players NA have ever produced, if not the best. We can have that conversation. And he has a fantastic mind for the game. Very cerebral player. I'm loving the fact that he just, as soon as his hair started getting thin, he said, fuck it, I'm going to go bald. He didn't go and get a hair transplant, which, funnily enough, I'm thinking I might do for some banter next year. I've noticed basically now the insults that get aimed at me are distilled down to fucking bald and fat. So if I get a ton of cosmetic surgery and a hair transplant, what are people left with? Just take it away from them. Just take it away from them. But anyway, yeah, they'll go with old, of course. But I don't mind that, because what's the alternative? Be dead. Can only work with the way time works. And it's a flat circle anyway. Joke's on them. But anyway, I'm glad Elige just went like that. Fuck it. Get it off. Good lad. And it sort of accentuates his throbbing brain. I'm sure sometimes when he's in clutches, if you look closely enough, you can sort of see it, like, just pulsing like that. Right? So, Elige is great and a really good player, and definitely in the conversation for a top 5 player this year. I think MOUZ has made that argument. I think Duncan might have made that argument too. He might not be there for me, but 6, 7, sure. Easily in the top 10 this year. Which, when you've been playing on Complexity, and Complexity haven't always had the greatest finishes, that's quite a testament to how far ahead of the rest of the roster Elige actually is. So that's the blessing. But I'm also going to say something. I'm just going to put this out there. Elige is also one of those competitors who, he likes to win. And he likes things to be done properly. And he's got great self-belief and self-confidence. And therefore, his self-belief and self-confidence translates to, my ideas are the right ideas. Do the things I would do, and then you will be better. And so, obviously, when you're a teammate who isn't Elige, it's kind of like playing with Simple in a way. You're playing with someone who is so absolute in how they view the game that any suggestion that deviates from their viewpoint is wrong. Stewie had this as well. It's one of those where it's like, if you're a teammate and you're underperforming, you're not going to get the attaboy from Elige. You're never getting that. You're not getting the let's go get them, up and at them. None of that's happening, right? You're just going to get told, like, yeah, well, you fucked up. You didn't do it the way I would have done. If you'd done it the way I would have done, then we would have won. And I think, honestly, I've heard this for years. In going all the way back to Liquid. The one time it was good was obviously when Liquid were winning all the time. When they did the Grand Slam in like 64 days or whatever it was. That's all great, but that's the curse. Unfortunately, any player that isn't able to meet Elige's standard is very likely to get demoralized quickly. And there has to be an aspect of, this can't just be a job. You have to enjoy coming into a team environment. And so I think it's difficult. Their decision to cut Floppy is probably long overdue. Just for me, it just wasn't sustainable to have Grim and Floppy on the same roster. And you could have made an argument maybe at the start of the year that it could be either or, but Floppy has had such a bad year that it was academic which one of the two were going to have to go. Now, obviously, they're going to have to go and scout out for some more American talent. Jason Lake has pretty much said he's committed to the idea of being NA. He said that on our review of the state of CS over on the Four Horsemen, which you can go see if you haven't already on the Insight on esports / Last Free Nation channels. But I also can tell, that Floppy sort of wasn't necessarily enjoying his time at the end, and it just wasn't ever translating to good performances. I think about Floppy when he was back in as part of the Cloud9 experiment and how good he was back then compared to where he is now, and it's been quite a drop-off, and he needs to find form, and maybe he finds form in one of these lesser NA teams. I mean, by the way, if I'm NRG, I'm on the phone straight away. He improves that roster immediately, in my opinion. Maybe you could go to an M80, whatever you want to do. He'll definitely still get to play on a team. It just won't be a team of the caliber of Complexity and Liquid, and it might take him a while before he gets to play with a player like Elige again, which, all things told, he might not mind at all. We will wait and see. The question always is, who do you replace an NA player with? And it's very hard to go out there and find actual bona fide NA talent you can slot into a tier 1 team and then go to international tournaments and do well. We shall wait and see. Yeah, Nouns. I'm leaving Nouns out of that conversation. Be a really good fit in Nouns, and obviously they've got spots on the roster right now. I'd fully support that. I'd love to see that. But the bigger question isn't floppy, like, oh, who do we replace floppy with? The bigger question, unfortunately, is do they keep Elige? And there's a couple of indicators that maybe they don't. The first was this. Elige, in his own words, said, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure I'm in a position to win in 2025. And this was in an interview with HLTV. He did an interview shortly after they got eliminated. And here it is. It's the last quote. He said, "We haven't talked about anything, obviously, and I don't have any plans that I already have set or anything like that. But for me, I want to win next year. That's the only thing that I want. I've been feeling like I want to win. I'm ready to win for 2025, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure I'm in that position to win." Now, I read that not as I'm going to work really hard and train and help Complexity build a roster. I read that as I'm 100% looking at every single option I can have for a move out of Complexity. And honestly, right now, maybe this is one of these years where unfortunately Complexity has to rebuild a little. You have to min-max a little. Maybe you do have to sell your star and replace them with a player not of the same caliber at all, and you've just got to kind of grind out the open circuit and wait and try and bring in some money, or maybe get someone in free agency. It could be a very tough 2025 for Complexity. I'll also add as well, I mean, listen, to Jason's credit, Jason was very open when he came on and talked to us about Elige's future and what was going on with Complexity. And you can also see here, if Elige can find an organization that right now can battle for top 3 consistently, we'll try our best to make it happen for him. You know, look, historically, Jason has definitely butted heads with players. I'm talking way, way back, ancient history, 2005. But that version of Jason Lake doesn't really exist anymore. And as he's got older and put all of his life and energy into esports, he hasn't ended up a jaded, bitter old husk like me. He's ended up the eternal optimist despite everything he's seen. And he has a genuine belief in resurrecting North American Counter-Strike. He wants American Counter-Strike, dare I say, to be great again. It's not an act with Jason. He really means all of these things. And he also has a great respect for the players that play for him. You know, he's essentially the owner / GM. Yet you will often see him at events. You saw him in the huddle at Copenhagen. You know, he genuinely gives a shit, and he also wants the best for his players. Now, even ones like Elige that maybe, you know, have been a little bit difficult to work with. I'm not saying I have any insight into that. I'm just saying, you know, these are the whisperings behind the scenes. So what that says to me is Jason will certainly look to sell him. And so I'm thinking, right out the gate with the ropz news that we're going to get to, I could see Elige going to FaZe. Love that. FaZe is technically an NA org just because they've had a European lineup. It's a star power rifler that would, you know, definitely not a like-for-like swap for ropz, but Karrigan will make that work. Takes a bit of pressure off Frozen. Elige gets to work with an IGL that he absolutely can't question. Get to work with Rain, probably the best teammate you could ever ask for in the history of Counter-Strike. You know? Definitely worse moves out there. That's probably the one I would make if I was FaZe. But we'll have to see. FaZe also, from what I understand, under the new ownership structure, I think Banks has said, Rana Banks in the chat, the other Banks, I think Banks has said that they have total respect for the CS team and they're not out of the game by any stretch of the imagination. And they will spend money on the team if they have to. Now, I imagine, all things told, with Elige hinting he wants to go, Jason saying we'll absolutely make it happen for him if we can, you could get Elige pretty cheap. cheap by the high standards of the player you will be getting. The only stumbling block for FaZe being the target, I would say, is this. I'm sure many of you remember when Complexity and FaZe very briefly had the same ownership, and it was that the parent company acquired both of them, and basically Jason was like, well, I'd rather buy back Complexity and be separate for that because it's going to create a bunch of conflict of interest issues. And so the problem with that is I don't know how that worked out amicably, or if it was amicable, or if it was like quite fractious. If the Game Square shit was fractious, then maybe Jason doesn't want to sell to FaZe, who he sees as a competitor, and a competitor he doesn't have good relations with. Maybe he'd rather sell to another team. But I do have to say, in terms of the orgs that Elige could be at, a return to Liquid seems unlikely. I think FaZe would be the best spot. So, I don't know. But anyway, all of which is to say, I can't really give any thumbs up about Elige leaving because A, we don't know who's being replaced with, B, we don't know if it's going to happen, and C, I don't really see how Complexity could get anyone that would replace him. So we'll do wobbly shaky hand for that one. But for Floppy being out, as much as I like Ricky and think he's a legend, he's a really cool dude to talk to, unfortunately I got to say thumbs up with the 24 that he had. He just can't justify his spot on the roster anymore. We had Fnatic do terrible at the major, didn't we? We had to watch that embarrassment, and finally they've done something. Cater is out. I've said he's been there for years. I've never understood how every iteration of Fnatic they never thought to change the coach. Yeah, he's been there over 3 years. 3 years of failure while he's been there. So he must be doing something behind the scenes that we can't realistically assess from here, because 3 years with that level of performance is crazy. And we all know how it works. Before you even think about changing a roster or an IGL, you look to the coach. The coach is the first thing you change. But he has rode through so many lineups and just held on to his job. And like me and Maui, we were talking backstage at in the green room at the major, and I was like asking Maui, I'm like, I just don't understand it. Like how's he kept a job? It's what does he do? Like what is the measurable metric of success? But anyway, he put a statement out, obviously, as they all do. I want to express my appreciation to all the staff and players I've had the privilege of working with over the past 3 years, dozens of them. I am currently open to all coaching offers as I evaluate my future. Excited for what's next. DMs are open. Cater had been at the helm of Fnatic since August 2021 when he joined the team not long after departing Complexity as part of a revamp that saw the benching of JW and Golden and the arrival of Mezzi and Alex. I mean, that's how long he's been there, guys. And that's how long, by the way, Fnatic have just been flailing and failing for. It's actually crazy. So just did want to point that out. I mean, I thought Fnatic were absolute fucking cheeks at the major. And the video I did on Blame F, I was talking about Blame F basically being cast into some purgatory, taking a job with Fnatic is just hell on earth. He's such a way better player than that, and it's just sad. There's certainly teams he could play for. I mean, honestly, again, just as a little bit of theory crafting, airlift Blame F out and put him on FaZe, that wouldn't be the worst either, frankly. But anyway, we move. Oh, while we're on Fnatic, not that it really mattered because he was already on the bench, Afro is out too, so if you want an AWPer that makes Draken look like fucking Prime Guardian, come and get Afro, he's available. Don't really have much more to add to that. Let's just get this one out the way. It's a classic Rostermania in the sense that I'm getting to dunk on all my old targets. So many of them. TSM. Now, we've done this a few times. Bit of history. TSM fumbled the greatest lineup in CSGO history. They had it. They had the core of it. They basically lost it because they refused to give a salary and accommodations to Freddie Biskov, who was the general manager and really close friend to all of those players, even to the point that back in 2015, the players themselves paid for him to be with them in Cluj-Napoca. TSM wouldn't tweet about the team and said Freddie should be doing that. He should be doing social media management while he's at an event managing a team that aspires to win championships. And they fumbled it, and frankly, it was embarrassing. And every trophy that Astralis lifted afterwards, that could have all been TSM if Reggie wasn't a prick and that org was functional. That's all you need to know about that historically. Obviously, Reggie denies it all and says a very different version. You decide. Anyway, ever since then, they come back into CS, round about the major cycles. We're back. Bloody hell, they do a fucking hastily cobbled together tribute video. TSM, all of the memories. I just got a memory of you fumbling the greatest lineup that's ever played the game, but whatever. They do that. They go into the RMRs. They fail to qualify for the RMRs. And then they go, gosh darn it, we just have to get out of this game again. You have to understand, TSM aren't even in fucking league right now. What even are they? Are they even an org? Do they even exist? What are they doing? It's just fold it up. You've made your money. So anyway, they cynically try to roll the dice. And they've done this multiple times. And the thing that I fucking hate about the Reddit community, and I made this point in a video and people like downvoted it. And, yeah, stinky Richard Lewis, boo. Just let people enjoy things. Right. It is destructive to the ecosystem of our game, which is delicately balanced, when cynical marauders like TSM come in, pick up players on contracts, make them promises, go through the RMR cycle, don't get into the RMR, but potentially knock a team out that might have qualified for the RMR if they didn't get put into matchup hell against whichever shit fucking lineup TSM has cobbled together, and then they immediately drop the team, meaning all of those promises, all of those contracts, poof, they just go out of existence, and all those players are looking for a job again, maybe having turned down opportunities to be elsewhere. If you co-sign that, you're a cunt. End of fucking discussion. That is not good for the industry. That is not good for the fucking space. And when orgs do it, I don't care if you... but when you chant the three letters, TSM, you get to do it and it sounds like a real sports chant. And the TSM, do you... I don't give a fuck about any of that. That shouldn't be important to you. It's only important to you because you're operating on a level of fucking jellyfish, right? And that, whatever. But I have to think about bigger concerns, and these things are bad. When TSM does this, it is bad. You shouldn't want to support that. So they've done it again. And so the first report that came out, Acore was benched on TSM due to budget reasons. Acore has been made available for transfer by TSM after 6 months with the American organisation. In a statement on X, the Danish ropz said that budget reasons were behind his benching. He also pointed to a weird start in the summer after TSM's pursuit of Config and Blame F fell apart and the latter's decision to join Fnatic. TSM did make the RMR despite having no time to practice, but had a rough time in Shanghai and went home with just a solitary win over Paravision, or P-Vision as we called them at the major. After the benching of Altex, it took a long time to get back on track with Syrah, Acore reflected. It did feel like we were getting back on track in the end, but it is what it is. TSM also released their TSM Impact squad in December and are now down to 3 players in their main lineup. Oh, we're going to talk about what's going on in women's Counter-Strike. Yeah, I can't help but notice. All of those people who are out there, yeah, let's champion women, let's champion women's teams. Why don't you want to champion women no more, lads? What's up? Oh, right. It was all cynical. It's just about the money. And now with the new rules around CS tournaments, it's going to impact on the women's tournaments because they're all seen under the same purview by Valve, and we're all just not talking about it, and we're all pretending. Oh, okay, right, yeah, my bad. Cynical the whole time. I even heard maybe, just maybe, some of those orgs were having stipends to even exist in the first place that they're maybe not having now. Don't know, some journalists could look into that maybe. Anyway, so there you go. That was the TSM lineup. Oh, well, it's only bloody Acore, but you can see here, look. Zyphon was benched as well. And they released the coach, Regin. Well, that doesn't sound very good, guys. That sounds like TSM might be about to do their standard CS rug pull because they didn't get stick. Oh, they've done it. Oh, they did. TSM have ended their Danish project. I mean, it's a project in the same way the Baltimore slums are a project. Like, for fuck's sake. Our ultimate goal, TSM have not closed the door on a roster for 2025, saying they're evaluating their next roster moves ahead of the new year. Our ultimate goal was to build a team ready to compete by 2025, Regin said. And while we gave it our all to secure the players, we had our eyes on that we ultimately fell short. So this is why the RMRs being gone is so good, because now TSM, who are saying, oh, we're totally evaluating our decisions around a roster for 2025. Here's what they can't do now. I don't even think they realize they can't do this, because I think they barely follow the game. I think they just are like, well, is it sticker money time, lads? Have someone have sticker money. Good. Got them stickers. Right? There's no RMR anymore. You cannot cobble together 5 players and fluke your way into getting sticker money. It cannot be done. And while I am sad for what Valve used to think could happen and what many of us talk about, the romance of the game, the dreams, the hopes and dreams of 5 players who were just friends and they come together and they go to the RMR and they qualify and it's an amazing moment. That never happens. But what does happen is cynical fucking orgs like this do this. And it's destructive to the fabric. They're trampling on people's dreams. You don't complain about that, do you? So no, it's good the RMRs are gone. It will stop this nonsense. Nonsense. I'm glad it's over. TSM, with the next major being in America, I'm sure they'd love to be there. I'm sure they'd love to be there with an American roster. But you know what they'd have to do? They'd have to fucking pick it up now. They would have to pick it up now, and it would have to play, and it would have to compete, and it would have to climb up in the rankings. And that can't happen. TSM can't do that. It is beyond them now. They are gone. And they will stay gone, evaluating our moves. There's no more sticker money to be had here, TSM. No more free wins for you to fucking pocket. No more min-maxing. It's over. So, TSM benching the Danish lineup, while it is a sad lull for the players, you should have all known what you were getting into. It did affect my precious Valdi. I miss you, Valdi. Why couldn't you have been the best player of all time? Miss you. Miss you, legend. But 2 thumbs up, because fuck TSM. We'll talk about this. One of the most highly sought after players that we've already talked about. Ya boy. All of his fans are users of my Discord. It's Jim Fat, aka Jimmy to his friends, apparently. We had that moment on stage where Banks went, right, yeah, I've got to ask you, Shuey. We've heard a lot of rumours, right, about the team, yeah. So are we going to see the same team next year, yeah? And Shuey went, no comment. And Banks went, right, we all saw it. He had a big grin on his face, didn't he? Obviously, the no comment means Jimmy, he gone. He gone. So, I'll read you the quote. I cannot say much about the rumours of a roster move, because also for myself, I said that I don't want to talk about anything only after the tournament. In the current situation, I have no idea what the next year will look like for me. I don't know if there will be any change in MOUZ, if I will stay or not, but whatever happens, every choice is great for me. Whatever I will decide on, I will not regret it and make the best out of it. I'm just really happy to be here in the moment, and there he is there, looking like the world's happiest Finn. So, like, rare footage of someone from Finland smiling, by the way. They should put this in a fucking museum. So, where would Jimmy end up, theoretically? The Falcons rumour was doing the rounds. I certainly believe it. I heard multiple people say Jimmy's going Falcons, and he's going to be there, and it's going to be MOUZ and Nico and Magisk +1. And the only thing that isn't done yet is the +1. And apparently that's all unraveled, because these things are never done until the ink is dry. And so that was the rumour. And I totally believe that, because MOUZ's not going. Jimmy's like, yeah, I don't know. No MOUZ, no party. I get it. For me, G2's natural. The reason G2's natural, MOUZ is moving into Nico's position. We know MOUZ has had to play like more anchoring roles in the team. Not always, by the way. They swap it around with him and Hunter, depending on the map. But Jimmy to G2, I think that's a very, very good move. I think that's a good move for everybody. Jimmy gets to go to G2, obviously. G2 are a big organization. MOUZ is there. They're going to keep manacy for 1 more year. Jimmy says he wants to play with manacy. Whether or not they would then both move to Falcons together after the fact. Boom. But ultimately, if MOUZ is now going to be the star of G2, which is crazy to think. He was on M80 not that long ago. He's now in 2025 going to be the star rifler of G2. Having Jimmy in there as an anchor and taking MOUZ off the anchor roles and Hunter off the occasional maps where he plays that role as well. That's a really good thing for G2, just structurally speaking. And Jimmy's one of those rare things. He's a firepower anchor. He's a star player anchor. I mean, you saw that interview with JDC, I'm sure, where JDC said, I had to play as an anchor, and it was a very humbling experience. It is dog shit. It's not fun. And the players that can do it well are worth their weight in gold, particularly right now in the current meta. Again, I'm going to repeat all of the things. Aggressive, T-side, all up in your face, wide swings, etc., etc. Jimmy's a guy that, can put up numbers on both sides of the equation, but as an anchor on the CT, he's probably the best, well, not probably, he is the best anchor in the world, in my opinion. So him going to G2 just seems like a natural move for me. If I'm G2, I certainly just tell MOUZ, like, look, he was an academy player for you. This is essentially all profit in terms of, anything you're going to get. And MOUZ are very good at bringing through and developing players. I don't think it's the end of the world for MOUZ either. I think it's just a good move. Just a good move all round. Seems to me to make total sense. But we shall wait and see. I can't really see where else he would go. I mean, he doesn't feel like a phase player. Doesn't feel like, he would be there to fill the ropz hole. Falcons, obviously, if it isn't happening, it's not happening. So, I don't know. We will see. But he's a player that, easily commands high 6 figures, maybe a 7-figure buyout, and you just sell him to G2, and G2 get to turn a corner, and maybe, who knows, they could do better with Nico, and then Reddit will be like, better without Nico, and Nico was the problem, Choco was the problem. We will see. I'll talk about this, actually. It's not really a Rostermania thing, but I'll just mention it because he's an old friend. My old chum, Adam, has finally decided that he wants to move into coaching. This is, of course, Freiburg. I think it's great. One of the things I've really enjoyed about being in the scene for so long now is seeing the continuity of, young players becoming seasoned veterans, developing talent. Now those seasoned veterans are moving into coaching roles, and hopefully some of them are going to come onto the analysis desk as well. We need some ex-pros on the analysis desk. One of the criticisms I would say I definitely agree with right now, we don't have a lot of ex-players as analysts. We need more of them. You don't have to be the best ones. You don't have to be the stars. Very often, star players are weirdos, and they can't articulate their thoughts very well. They just do it. They don't talk about it. But anyway, we'll see. Certainly, I would say this. Adam, if you don't get a coaching job, hit me up. Let's see if we can get you on a desk, because Adam is riotously funny. He's a funny motherfucker and deceptively smart about the game. See, we've got Pimp. Right, so people are disagreeing with the statement. We got Pimp. Pimp played at the highest level. We've got the guy we can't talk about anymore. Well, he's gone. MOUZ played at, like an ESEA level in NA. Yanko did play. Moses isn't an analyst anymore, but he sort of did too. And it's like, well, after that, it's dust, it's Blair, I want Steel, but Josh has said he wants to, because his ban gets lifted in 2025, Josh wants to put the team together. He wants to compete. He wants one last ride, is what Josh wants. So, listen, let him cook. But if it goes wrong, Josh on the desk is a must. It's a must. I don't care who picks him up or what events he works, but if he for some reason decides not to compete, or he competes for like 3 to 6 months and it doesn't work out, lock him up on a contract. Steele's like the future of the analysis desk. He would nicely fill the void left by Sean Gares after Sean went. But that's the other thing, you know, we lost a lot of good analysts. And Steeko's coming through, but Steeko has worked one event. And I'll tell you, you need time to cook, you got to get out there, you got to get like 10 events under your belt. You got to learn about all the other analysts, how they work, how you compare with them, how you bounce off them, all the different desk hosts, their style, their flow. You have to know all that shit. And so you do one event, people might like what comes out of your mouth. There's way more to this game. There's way more to being on a desk than just saying the right things. That's the bare minimum. That's like entry level. See, you don't see it all. You don't know that the people producing the show are watching interplay and how things work, and then they're swapping pairings around. You don't even know who you're going to be paired with moment to moment. If you've got 4 or 6 analysts, you don't know what's what. Then on top of that, hosts like to do things differently. They're keeping you on your toes. A lot of the time, analysts will talk to each other like casters would. I'm going to do this, and then when I go here and talk about this, you can come in and do this. And there's an element of rehearsal that goes into what happens on the desk, and it's got to be, and it feels spontaneous because in the moment it is. But like I say, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on there. Regardless, I think we still need more ex-pros. Steele is a shoe-in. He'll be there one day for sure. If he competes in 25, he'll be there in 26. If Adam doesn't get a coaching job, which, by the way, he absolutely should, any of the NIP players, by the way, Richard's a little dry, I will say that, but Adam is funny. Forrest would be, who retired, obviously, announced his retirement not that long ago. Absolute legend. You know, Patrick could be really good on a desk too, I think. So, you know, but anyway, he's out there. Go get him. Go get my friend. Give him a job. He is ready to coach. Put him in. We had this as well. This was one of those that, again, it felt inevitable. FlyQuest did the most heartbreaking thing you can do, which is you go 2-0 and then you go 3-2. And they went out. And this is kind of a weird one because Alistair needed to be benched going into the major. But then he did step it up. At the major, he played really well. Him getting dropped, it sort of makes sense. I was a bit disappointed overall with FlyQuest. I think they were certainly better than they looked, and they should be better, and they're a roster with like a deceptive amount of experience now. And yeah, I think it's one of those where they just had to change something, and over the year, Alistair makes sense. But after the tournament, it's a feels bad man for him. But whatever. Not much more to add to that. They're going to be looking to replace him with an international player, apparently they're saying. So we shall see how that works out. I'm going to give that move 1 thumbs up. Obviously contingent on who you replace them with and how well you do in the future. Now, Big. I'm not going to bang on Big too much because I do genuinely feel sorry for them with everything that happened at the major. They went from celebrating, you know, getting to skip the opening stage to being told, oh, our bad, sorry, fuck that, fuck your celebrations. You are going to play in the opening stage because of a rule snafu. Personally, I actually think Big handled that situation about as gracefully as I've ever seen an organization. Because I'll tell you, if it was Na'Vi, they would have threatened to pull out and there would have been a tantrum. If it was, you know, Cloud9 maybe, Team Liquid, we all know Americans have to get their way all of the fucking time. If it was G2, you know. But Big, they took it on the chin about as classily as you could. And then obviously the rest of the event was bitterly disappointing for them. I'm sure many people saw this coming a mile off. Rigon was put in an unenviable position, it's got to be said. Rigon joined, wasn't an anchor, didn't really play that style. They tried to find something that made him work in the team. It turned out it didn't work out. He had very, very poor run. Series of poor performances, and it was clear you could see it just wasn't working. And you know, it's one of those. Anyway, it says here, after an intense and unforgettable journey, it's time for me to say goodbye. This chapter has been filled with ups and downs that have shaped me not only as a player, but also as a person. Together we gave it our all, but unfortunately things didn't work out as I had envisioned. I am grateful for the incredible moments, the support from the team and the fans, and the opportunity to be part of this. My journey continues, and it's the start of something greater. I'll be back better, more sharp, and ready to show what I'm truly capable of. Now, where Rigon ends up, who knows? Probably in the tier 2 fucking graveyard, unfortunately. Maybe on a team like OG or something, or, you know, who knows? It's going to be tough. It's never good when you're coming off an L, because it's like, you know, you think about like the Nexa trajectory. Hi, I'm Nexa. I can play in this position for sure. Oh no, I'm terrible and it's really hard. Oh no, my confidence has gone and it's getting worse. Oh no, I'm out of the team. Oh, don't worry, I'm in a tier 2 team. I'm in Bleed. Oh dear, Bleed is the worst run organization in the world, and I'm also still really bad. Bye everyone. Bye everyone. I'm now a pub quiz question. Did I even have a career? That, you know, it can be that quick. It can be that fucking quick. And so it's a tough one. Rigon staring, like his next roster decision he makes, the next team he goes to play for, it's actually critical for his career. So I hope he makes the right choice, and I hope he falls on his feet. He's a good guy by all accounts. Next up, though, is obviously for Big, it's the right decision. You had a square peg in a round hole. It wasn't working. You've identified it. You haven't wasted time. Obviously, with everything else that happened at the major, it's probably not even... You probably just feel like shit anyway. So it's a good time to do it. Fair play. I'm going to give it 1 thumbs up. This was the right decision to make. And while we stay on Big, the rumours are they're also benching Searson, which I have to say is long overdue. Long overdue. This fraudulent motherfucker. Oh my god. Like Kenny S in the sheets, Smiths in the streets. I've had to watch this guy time and time again flop on fucking stage, and it's like, my dude, you're the fucking AWPer. There's nowhere to hide for you. It's ridiculous how often this guy has just been allowed to go to an event, crash out, play bad, and then we get back into online or group stage or, you know, your practice room games, and he's great again. Everyone's, oh, wow, yeah, fuck, Searson, what a talent. Like, nah. So, 2 thumbs up for benching this dude. You know, also as well, like, no spring chicken, 28, right? Yeah. Now, Big have got problems. I'm giving it 2 thumbs up just nominally because he's a fraud, but we're also in shaky hand territory because I don't know who you're going to go out and get to replace him. You need a German-speaking AWPer. Kiev? Is he coming back? No, obviously not. And it definitely can't be Smooya. Yeah, there's Slacks. Probably him. Like, it's tough. Look, I love what Big do as an organization, but at some point, this commitment to being German-speaking only is going to be self-defeating. I think we're there. I think this is the impasse. Like, put it this way, it's not like these people speak fucking German because they can't speak English. In this day and age, you would have to go to, like, some fucking Bavarian farm, you know, in the darkest forest to find a German that doesn't speak enough English to get by. Like, Germans speak good English. It's as simple as that. I've been going to Germany for fucking decades. I speak enough German to get by in Germany, right? Which, I mean, listen, if all you're there for is some sausages and beer, you're going to be fine with the handful of words I know. But I speak enough German to get by. And, you know, it's never really needed. It's never like, I haven't been to a German city in years and bumped into someone where it's like, my German is, if we want to get something done, my German's the deal breaker. So at this point, like Tabson, by the way, because I spent some time in the NRG house when Tabson and Gobby and those guys, and Peter, P Turbulence was there. And like Tabson, fluent English, like just fluent, just perfect fluent English, not a problem. So I I'm pretty sure I've heard JDC speak English. I'm pretty sure I've heard Crimbo speak English. So at this point, particularly with the shake-up, like, it's just go international. Just pick up some other Europeans, that people that can talk, and you go in English and it's all fine. And then suddenly your options are a lot wider. There are some decent AWPers out there that don't have rosters that can come in and be better on stage than Searson. Yeah, JDC, when he used to do all them interviews at MOUZ NXT. So I just don't know. I don't know if it's some sort of deal they've got with sponsors, maybe, that they have to have a German lineup, but it just seems so weird at this point. There is not a lot of German talent to borrow from, and Big has to be better than, we just take from alternate. We just take from alternate attacks. Like, whenever a player gets good on alternate attacks, they graduate to Big or whatever it is, or Sprout. You can't just be, not dead now, of course, not that Sprout exists anymore. But, you can't just be that. You have to, you're going to have to cast a wider net. So, there is no more alternate attacks either. You're right. They're dead now, of course. God. See what I mean? The German scene has just been fucking ravaged, man. It used to be one of the straight fire ones. Like, MTW, guys. MT-fucking-W. Like, MOUZ isn't really MOUZ sports anymore. They're something different now. Like, Big, even though they're the new kids on the block, they're the last man fucking standing. It's kind of crazy. So, it's tough, but I think it's the time to go international now. So, it is shaky hand overall. Searson was always a fraud. So 2 thumbs up for getting rid, but please, please, please take advantage of some of the English-speaking European Tier 2 talent that's out there. You keep your German core, everyone wins. And then that brings us to the big story of the day. I woke up, was doing the last of my Christmas shopping. We rode it down to the wire this year, getting all the presents in. And this is, obviously Nico's going to be confirmed to Falcons, but we know that. So this is the first blockbuster. This is the big one. And so, right out the gate, here are the facts. This was a free transfer. So ropz's contract expired. He signed a new contract with Vitality. No money to FaZe. So, I've seen my boy Yanko criticized FaZe because they've got previous with this because they let twists go for free as well. Now, I'll just say this. I've got mixed thoughts. Because, look, it's bad practice to not move a player along if they're going to run down their contract. If they're saying, look, I don't want to stay, and you know that for months, you should try and get something rather than let them run out. But equally, one of the things that a lot of orgs are doing, they're signing players to longer contracts, and then they keep them either in contract jail or they just bench them. And so, one is bad for the org and very good for the player. One is bad for the player and very good for the org. There's obviously some sort of middle ground, but you will see in sports a lot of the time, savvy players, I shouldn't use the word savvy anymore with what's happened to esports the last few years, smart players, what they'll do is they will run their contract down and then they will go out and with their agent negotiate a new deal. Generally, you're better off because what ends up happening is, and I've talked about this phenomenon down the years, if the organization has to pay a buyout, they were more likely to try and knock you down in the salary. If they don't have to pay a buyout, and ropz would have been, say he had a year left on his contract, he'd be $1 million player, right? If they don't have to pay anything on the buyout, then you can get a bit more in the salary. Performance bonuses are being negotiated now. If for those that know, we're starting to get performance structures in player contracts. I've seen some interesting ones lately because I like to keep up to date with what the new tech is so I can offer advice to players and stuff. So I have no doubt ropz got a straight fire contract. Boom. I'm sure Vitality are paying him a lot of money. Now, I've got some issues. Because I'm Richard Lewis. I can't be happy about everything. We aren't even talking about what the roster move means yet. What it means for Vitality. All the funny tweets. I've got some issues. ropz, while he showed everyone, he showed the world who he is in the playoffs of Shanghai, he has been phoning it in for the best part of a year. Sorry. All the criticisms you said about Blame F being a beta, you meant ropz. Sorry. FaZe's fall-off was largely predicated on ropz having a bit of a fucking tantrum. Me no like CS2. Wah, wah, wah. CS2 bad. Please don't talk about my Porsche. Wah, wah, wah. Sorry. You still got to turn up and fucking play. You can't, like, it's like I say, this is sports. It's performance-based. You don't get to dine out on what you did a year ago. It don't work like that. Not when there's a tournament every fucking 2 weeks. I need you here and now, and I need you present, and I need you performing. And honestly, there's an argument you could make. He let his teammates down a little bit. All that extra pressure put on Frozen to be the one to step up. All the trophies that get away from Carrigan, 34 years old, still chasing down the legacy to be the GOAT IGL. Rain, just the fucking ultimate teammate. Just the best guy you could ever do anything with in life or in CS. And, you know, Brokey, who is an eclectic, chaotic player. ropz is the star, and stars don't get off days. Stars don't get to phone it in. Stars don't get to moan about Reddit threads laughing at them because they bought a Porsche. You don't get to do it. You're the star player. What you do is you turn up and you take unwinnable games and you make them winnable by warping the fucking fabric of space and time with your talent. That is what you do. You break timelines. You take us into new parts of reality. That's what star players do in every single sport. And you ain't done that for a year. And by the way, you ain't tried to do that for a year. And then when The Last Dance was looking pretty good on the fucking, in Shanghai, all of a sudden, you just stepped the fuck up and you were battering everyone. So, I don't know. For me, because Reddit plays favorites, ropz got away with a lot of criticism that he should have had. Because everyone does this thing. Oh, he's so nice. Remember when JW called him a cheater and a retard, and then he went to face it and he beat everyone. And we all realised he was legit. And when he joined FaZe, we were all so happy for him. And then there was that Valve documentary, and all. He's such a nice guy. Well, cool. That's wicked. I'm glad he's a nice guy. But if I'm running a team, you can be a fucking arsehole. If you pop all of them heads and we just win games, and I'm getting trophy after trophy after trophy because of your efforts, and we're all sharing in that. Like I said, that's the price of being a star. Price of being a star is you don't get to have the off days, but you get all of the credit, all of the praise, all of the money, all of the success. It's all just there for you. But there is no off day. There is no phoning it in. And you owe it to yourself, by the way, if you're a star player, to keep that mind right and turn up and do it every day. You can act like you can have all the cars. Have a Jay Leno-esque fucking garage once you're 32 and you're done. But here and now, wasting a year of your career when you're as good as ropz, it's criminal, man. It's criminal. So I did just want to put that out there. Now, I also want to put it out there. When did these negotiations start? Because if you're kind of phoning it in for a year, and then as soon as the major's over, bye everyone, I'm off on a free transfer to Vitality. Uh-oh. And there was like little bits and pieces, like when I was getting ready for this. Because there was a tweet back in 2022. HLTV obviously did like an article with the Vitality esports director, and they were doing an interview, and they were like, look, we're building something real here, and when we start winning, we're gonna be doing it for a long time. And in that interview, we referenced that they'd had talks with ropz, and so ropz made a joke, and he said, ropz is a paycheck stealer confirmed, and then added, nothing bad happened in our talks, and it's not me, so keep speculating, respect between us and our teams. And then the tweet that you saw was, well, maybe ropz will get you in 2025. Right? So, I would assume from all of this that probably 25 comes rolling around, his contract's ending. When did the dialogue start? And probably Vitality's been on the cards for a while. That would be my assumption. It's been a wild time for Vitality in general, because obviously the other component to this is ropz is replacing Spinks, and there was a rumor going around, which was the KRL rumor, which also came out during the RMRs, and it was that, oh, they're trying to sell Apex, and they want to sell Apex to Falcons. And you can see here, the director of esports for Vitality tweeted out saying, seeing as misunderstandings can happen on the internet, let me be very clear. Apex, our captain, is not for sale. The full team is focused on the major. Let's win this shit. Which, of course, was immediately contradicted by Apex when they went out of the tournament, because Apex turned around and said, we haven't been a real team for months. And obviously, if you know the rumors that are going on behind the scenes, the rumors are that Spinks no longer wanted to play with Mezzy, and he was just totally done and totally checked out. I have no idea if that's true or not, but that's what everyone, I mean, like literally everyone is saying. And there was no rebuilding the bridge or reconciling it, and Spinks was just like, yeah, look, I'm out. And so when Apex says we haven't been a real team for months, I do wonder if months ago Vitality reached out to ropz and said, when your contract's up, we'll come and get you. That's kind of how these things go down generally. Anyway, back to this. So obviously, the move for ropz as a replacement for Spinks, it's 2 thumbs up. I mean, you're not only getting ropz, like one of the best players to touch the game, you're getting ropz, who's just had an insane run at the Shanghai playoffs and reminded everyone what he's capable of. This is very much, I mean, I'm hoping it's going to be a motivated ropz. And look, I don't know if ropz even watches my stuff. He's one of the few pros. I don't even think I've ever had a conversation with him. But I would just say this, don't let the Porsche stuff get on top of you. That's a ridiculous thing. Like, if you buy an expensive car and take pictures of you with the expensive car and you put it on social media, like, what do you think's going to happen? Like, there's all these salty little fucking gamblers out there, all the bettors, that fucking, when you play bad, they're blaming it on the car. They're going to compare it to the Taz Mercedes. They're going to do all of this stuff. It's like, it's like, put it this way, the best piece of advice I've ever heard is like what the Barcelona players used to say back in the day, which is you can have a nice house and you can have cars in your garage and bikes and anything else you want, all the opulence and all the decadence, but you never fucking bring it to the fucking training ground. You don't let the fans see it, because this is, you know, this is Barcelona. This is a club of the people. And so you've only got 2 ways you can go. You either lean into the opulence and the decadence, or you fucking don't talk about that shit if it's going to get inside your head. I don't know if it has. I don't know if that was a throwaway thing that he was just saying, that he didn't like it. But at the end of the day, you know, when you see, I mean, like, I think it was wonderful on Navi. I think he posted some fucking insane sports car that he'd bought. It's like, I don't know. Fans aren't going to like it. That's just historically true. You already have an adversarial relationship with every fan that isn't a fan of your team specifically, right? And so, yeah, when you're playing bad, but you're still making money, they are going to call out your privileged position. And obviously, like every sports fan, they don't know about the blood, the sweat, the tears. They don't know how long you practice. They don't know about the relationships you sacrifice. They don't know about the sleepless nights. They don't know about the adrenaline dumps and the vomiting in the toilet before the big games. They don't see any of that. They see what you put on social media. So control that shit, and then you control the narrative and the messaging around yourself. Anyway, 2 thumbs up for the roster move. It's not a like-for-like replacement, I don't think. Spinks is very, very different. But I do want to go on the record as someone that said as late as yesterday, I don't think Spinks is easily replaceable. Well, if you were going to get ropz the whole time, kind of made me look like a dickhead. So I'll take the L on that one. Definitely replaceable by ropz, 100%. There's another aspect to this, which is apparently there were talks with other orgs. G2, their name was in the mix again. I don't know. Don't know if that's true or not, but could have also seen him going there instead of Jimmy. Again, it's a good move. It's got star power. I'd see him fitting into G2 really well. Obviously now, having lost ropz, they must go and get Jimmy, in my opinion. So we now move on to the Spinks side of this. Where would Spinks possibly go? We know It won't be Falcons, as I've said repeatedly. That's just not going to happen. I'd be very, very surprised. I mean, like, beyond surprised. I've seen some people say Spinks should go to FaZe, which I don't hate, but I don't. I think this is a crazy thing. I didn't think I would say this out loud. If I have the FaZe team and assume it's Karrigan, it's Rain, it's Frozen, it's Brokey, I might want to take Elise over Spinks. That's like, if you gave me the choice between the two, I'd probably go for Elise first. I think Elise is a better fit in FaZe and gives them what they need. Spinks to G2 feels good, but not ideal, because I think Jimmy gives G2 more of what they need in terms of reliability on that CT side. So it's interesting. All of a sudden, and I didn't think this could happen, I'm very curious as to where Spinks is going to end up, because I think FaZe can definitely go and get Elise. I think that's a doable move. I think G2 can definitely go and get Jimmy. I think that's a doable move. And so, do MOUZ have the kind of power to come in and get Spinks? Would Spinks even want to go to MOUZ? I'm sure when Spinks was putting up this fucking thought process in his head, he was like, "Oh, I'll go to a G2 or a big org. Like I'll for sure." But now it's not a guarantee. There's an interesting one that, I haven't necessarily considered this. Hunter could also leave G2. Maybe he doesn't want to play there without Nico. Certainly not had a great 2024. I mean, you give me the option, Spinks over Hunter? Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's just I haven't heard anything about whether Hunter leaves or not. So, it's just never been talked about. So, I mean, that'd be great. I mean, if G2 drop Hunter, move MOUZ to Nico's roles, and get Jimmy and Spinks, it's back on for G2. The only thing we're talking about is Taz and Snacks again, right? So, definitely possible. The other one, Liquid for your Kindar. I could see that, for sure. Feel like your Kindar's got, like, I don't care how many false dawns he has. Like, it's criminal to keep him on the Liquid roster. So I suppose there are options there for Spinks. There might not be the options he would have wanted when this move was being fomented 2 months ago. But that's where it is. But anyway, look, so 2 thumbs up for Vitality here. Absolute blockbuster move. Killed it. Fucking great job. For ropz, maybe it is the right time to leave FaZe. I'll give you 1 thumbs up for you, mate. For Spinks, I think it's super sad that he couldn't make this work. But I guess if you're not happy, a thumbs up for you. And then a shaky hand, because we don't really know where he's going to go. But there's definitely a couple of spots where maybe things won't be as good as he'd hoped for, but he can go and have impact. And that's that. That's the Rostermania. So yeah, that's basically kind of where we're at. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more transfers to come. We're going to pick them up for sure. As and when they do, I imagine things are going to go quiet over Christmas, and then between the 27th and the 4th of January, we're probably going to have an absolute slew again of roster moves. But we shall wait and see, because obviously Falcons have to build a team. You know, MOUZ have to replace Jimmy if he goes. FaZe, we don't know what their future is. I mean, keep in mind, there's still rumours that FaZe might cut Karrigan and Rain. That's still out there. Are FaZe doing a total rebuild? So yeah, I mean, the bounty is the first one, the Blast bounty. So that's like very early. Yeah, it's like, is that like January 14th or something? It'll come around quick, so people have to get their teams and get them registered if they're attending. I mean, this is the other thing, as I've said throughout. Maybe some teams won't even attend some of these events. We'll just have to wait and see. So yeah. Anyway, that's it. Rostermania. We can do the big guitar noise we usually do here.